again, my friends. Well, welcome back to Leopard Street, land of the curious electrical fault. Yeah. Following on from the last video, the N2 is still in place with Clarence the Cleaning Coach. We'll come back to Clarence in a bit. I'm printing some more uncouplers and I've got a load of servo bits on there. But first off, this one, electrical faults. Have a look. This is Leopard Street. Yeah, now here we are in the depths of under Leopard Street, and this is sort of the electrical system we've got here at the panel. Now, before we look too much into that, what happened last time then? So, the train was running, and it just stopped. Let's say I came over here. These three displays show the voltages. Top one's 15, 12 volts, 5 volts. Bottom one was blank. It kept lighting and going blank. Lighting, going blank. It was down here. Kept starting up and dying again. Now the light had been running. And I started off thinking, well, how come the N2 stopped? Because the 15 volts running and the DCC-EX system is powered from the 15 volt. I thought, ooh, that's interesting. Why has it stopped? Well, if you remember a few videos ago, or quite a few videos ago, put these in emergency stops, and if we look over there somewhere, there is a relay. That relay is driven by the 5 volt logic circuit. So when that power supply went down, it cut all the track power. Hence why the locomotive stopped. So, so I now know I've got a relay that I need to rewire. It kept rebooting and clicking, and the reason this panel's down and board H's panel's down over there, I thought these relays were wired to the wrong board. It's not. It's that little relay that lurks over there. So let's see if I turn this on, whether the layout will do now. I'll get down here first, what it did. So if I turn, look up at this. If I turn this one on, and it's doing it again. Oh, and now you see it's come on. And it's booting up, everything's stabilized. There's something not right though. Ouch, I'm weird. I come up here and see these are all reading. Now, the 5 volt is a 4 amp supply. That is well within its current limit. My first thought was this could be a power surge on startup. And it may well be. But it's not a 2 amp one. There's nothing connected that can draw enough current to cause me a serious problem here. So I'm suspecting, and this is just suspecting here, I have a problem with the power supply. It's possible it's just failing. I've not had any problems with it until the other day when this problem started to occur. Now, obviously, I've been wiring up some more track. However, nothing on platform 6, none of the things I've done recently are actually connected to anything yet. And the problem is on the 5 volt logic circuit. So it can't really be track related because that's not connected to anything. I'd say the DCC-EX is on the 15 volt. Shouldn't be that. All the lighting that's dotted about, signals and whatever, they're all on the 12 volt circuit. And there's a load more point servo holders printing. So I've been thinking, what can I do about this? What can I test it with? Mentioned in the last video, previously what I'd do is I'd start unplugging things and see where the problem went away. Bit more awkward to do now. So what I've got is this. This is a 5 volt power supply. It's only a 2 amp one, but that should be enough. And I've got a range of little connectors. If I can do this one-handed. Anyway, one of which is this barrel type, which has got 2 screw terminals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make up a little lead for this. Ground and earth. I'm going to come down here to my panel, and I'm going to disconnect the feed into the 5 volt logic supply. and I'm going to wire in this alternative supply. And what I want to see is, does this do exactly the same thing? Do I still get that startup fault, or does it just work? It's basic diagnostics. If it just works, this will do for a few days. I'm going to say it's a 2 amp supply, and we're drawing about 1.4, 1.5 amps. So that'll work. What I'll actually do if that works is I will order another one of those power bricks that you can see on the floor down there, which is a 5 volt 4 amp supply, or I might get a 5 amp one, whatever, and I'll plug that in. So the first thing I need to do, make a little lead for that. So I'm going to get some bits and I'll be back in a sec. All right, so what we need, that, got a couple of ferrules that'll fit in the end of that. I've got the ferrule crimping tool here. I've got some spade terminals, I've got that. So what I'm going to do is do this first. Incidentally, thanks for the tip, whoever it was who came up with it. I've been cutting wires like that to strip. But it says if you cut them like that, it's easier. So I gave it a try. And guess what? It's easier. So that, there. Hopefully this will fit into here. It does. As usual, I'm just using the ferrules. It stops stray wires causing problems. It also, rather nicely, keeps the wire tidier. Now, I've seen people who put them in ferrules and then add solder. The whole point behind this is what you've got is a semi-flexible mechanical connection. Start adding solder to multi-stranded wires, and you can get problems. Basically, the wires just start breaking. After a while, it all falls apart. So on here, I have a negative is that one. So black wire negative. This is going to go to my layout's common ground. I can put that one into there. Now, the beauty of this, fairly obviously, is I can plug it in and I can unplug it quite easily. The panel I've got doesn't have switches for the different voltage settings because the idea was just to turn it on and it would work, was the original idea. Yeah, it doesn't always seem to work like that. Never mind. Right, so strip the end of this one, and these are going to go into the spade terminals. Now, these, if you use them, you put the wire in. I tend to twist it around a bit as it goes in. You want the wire to come out the end. Not massively, but you do want it to come out the end. And these have 2 different sized jaws. The big jaw goes on the bottom. The little jaw goes on the top. And then squeeze. And I tend to try and do it a couple of times on these. And that's on. And again, I've seen people solder them. I think Ian solders them. I don't. It's the same reason. You can. It's not going to. The connector police aren't going to come around and start causing you problems. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just making a little lead. So this is going to go into here, like so. And what I'm going to do is wire this into my current system. I'm just going to disconnect the current 5 volt. So there we have a lead. Quite useful. This, I'll just take the wire off this thing. I've got loads of these little power supplies lurking around. That's like that. You plug that in and then that goes into there. Job done. Let's go wire it in. Yeah, so here we are in the dark depths underneath Leopard Street. Now the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect this, which is my current 5 volt connection. And what I'm going to do is just adapt the cable clip at the top so that it can't touch anything. That's the important bit. Then we look up here. That's now not going to touch anything because that'll be live. 5 volts, but live is live. So that's that. And I'm going to replace that with this one. So instead, this becomes my 5 volt logic feed. That can go into there. The ground connector can stay. It has to, in fact, because I need all the grounds to be commoned. I shall plug the new one of these in up here. This is a point worth noting. You can use multiple connectors. You can use multiple power supplies, sorry. So I'm going to do now. Now this is going to be plugged into the other power supply I've got here. Now I'm going to unplug that one. That is my power bus. I'm going to plug that in instead. I'm going to plug that into there. And then I'm going to look up there at one of these. I'm going to reach around here. I'm going to turn it on and see what it does. That one. And what it's done, that one's powered up. That one through there hasn't. That one over there has. That hasn't. So I'm going to turn it off again. And then I'm going to try it again. Now this one here starts up immediately. Some of the others don't. And I'm looking around and I can see other boards. Some have started, some haven't. There's a lot of flickering. Now that is interesting. That tells me it's probably startup current causing this problem, not what I originally thought it was. So what I'm going to do now is disconnect this new one. This is fault finding. Now, interesting. Now what I've got, I do have, so I'm just going to tilt this in here. I'm going to see if it goes back there. I shall plug its wire back into its holder up there. What I'm going to do now is try and turn it on again. Now this one isn't starting up. That one has. Now this one now has. So they're just taking a little bit of time to connect. Now that delay may well be just the Wi-Fi. The time that's taking to connect. Let's go and have a little think about what that might be. Incidentally, before I go anywhere else, a thought occurs. I'm going to unplug this again. I've got the other 5-volt supply. So I'm going to plug that one in and we're going to see if that works. Yeah. Screws come out. Put that back in. Thinking being, if this is a startup current problem, which I mean, it might be. It could be the supply, there's just a momentary peak and the supply is going, I don't like that. Oh, I'm getting a pling of my dehumidifier again. Let's put that in there. If it is that causing the problem, there is actually something I can do about it. Because as you can see, all of this is connected up at the moment. And when I turn it on, it all powers up. And it all tries to switch itself on in one go. I just need to reach around here and unplug that because I've got another connector. Now this is from my normal power circuit. So I'm going to try that and see if that starts up correctly. And that's starting up fine. All the boards I can see are flickering. I can see lots of blue flashing lights. Right. So, I think it is a power supply problem, but we'll see exactly which one in a minute. Let's go and have a little think. Plug that back into there and rewire this again. So yeah, this may mean I've got a gradually failing power supply. And it can happen. But it could also mean I have startup surge. And we'll have a little think about what I can do about that. Okay, back at the desk. So what could be happening here? If that's time going that way, and that is current. That is amps. I suspect what's happening is we come along here, and at that point I flick the switch, and there is a big spike that then drops off. And I suspect what's happening is, forget the scaling a little bit, but that is where the power supply is comfortable. This is going up above it. Now it could actually be, I mean, do the scale on this correctly. I think what's happening is it's doing that. And that's about 1.5 amps, which is where we sit normally. You did it all the way across there. And up here somewhere is about 4, which is what the supply is rated for. I've got a big spike at the beginning. Now, what's causing that is capacitors on the layout. Turn it on, they need to charge. The ESP32, all of them draw more current at startup as they try to connect to the Wi-Fi, and it drops off. And it's possible, I mean, the layout, most of the problems I've had is when I turn the layout on. The other day, it also dropped out when I was doing it. Now, I think the power supply may be getting a little bit ropey. But what can I do about that pulse? There is a thing. I don't have this thing, but I could have this thing. And what it's called is an on delay relay. Now you can make these, but true to form, AliExpress sells them for a couple of quid. So what I'll probably do is buy one. And what this is you turn your power. So purple here is going to be power. Oop. And I've got a bunch of relays flickering like crazy behind me. I'm going to deal with by unplugging them. That's the relay board I haven't yet reset for 3.3 volts. I'm going to be doing that this weekend. So if I come along here and I turn my power on like that, and what we're getting at the moment, due to another pen, is at that point, current's going way up there and then dropping down. And that is amps. And that's always going to happen on individual boards. But what if, change for another color here, what if I had a relay that when I turn the power on, waits a little while and then switches on? So I have a time delay. Well, how does that help? I've got, for the sake of argument here, I have a whole bunch of these ESP32s. How many have I actually got? Think about this. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got 13 at the moment. I'm going to have 14. So they all kick in at once. Big power spike. And if any one of them, for whatever reason, causes a brownout, they'll all reset. And I think that's what's causing the problem for the power supply. But say I use some of these little time delay relays. I say this first board is going to take 0.5 of a second. I was going to take 1, 1.5, take 2, and we'll get all the way along here, and we might be up to about 10, 15 seconds. It doesn't matter. What I'm doing is my startup current is now, instead of looking like that, my startup current is now and obviously eventually we get over to 1 inch and then drops that down to where it should do. That could help. And actually the circuit to do it, I can't memorize it off the top of my head, but basically it is my normal relay driving circuit, which looks something like that, without the pull down. Some of them have the LED, some don't. And what's driving this is a 555 timer, and it's set up so as soon as it gets power, it triggers. And it goes on, and then it changes state. And you use that to drive the relay. Oh, and these little boards, I may try getting a couple of them. I may just try it. It'll mean the layout takes slightly longer to power up. I can live with that. Anyway, in the meantime, that's enough dealing with power-related issues. I'm going to hope the layout now behaves itself, because we've got something far more important to talk about. Let's go have a look at Clarence. So here we are back with Clarence. Now, Clarence is going to start moving shortly. I just need to go back over to the panel. I have unplugged this station board. Incidentally, you can see I've started playing around with some of the newer tracks. These aren't held down yet in any way, shape, or form. I've just been playing with how it's going to lay out. Yeah, I've got to get that board in. This one's just started clicking like crazy. Does it occasionally. I'm going to change it to this so that the relays switch on and off properly. Joy, it's a weekend job. But Clarence here now. I was going to call this coach Womble, because it just wombles around and cleans up behind it. However, the idea to get this actually came from Kelly Ashford in the comments. Hello, Kelly. Hello. And she suggested Clarence the Cleaning Coach. Henceforth, Clarence the Cleaning Coach. Seems only fitting, really. So, what I'm going to go and do is move a few things around. I'm going to put the centre board back in. And then Clarence is going to do a few more laps. I hope. He's done about 4 laps so far of this circuit, and he's going to do some more. Everything's set up. So, without further ado, let's get on with that. And here we are, Clarence the Cleaning Coach with my N2 rather noisily pushing. Now, the N2 is not my best engine when it comes to moving at low speed. However, pushing a cleaning coach, I'm going to hope, deals with some of that. I mean, the coach itself's actually, that's what I said. I mean, it's the standard rubbishy little Hornby 4-wheel coach. I actually quite like them. They're not the most realistic of coaches. I don't really care, to be honest with you. There's something I'm pondering having a look out for them and getting myself a little rake of them. Don't need many. But we're running. The N2 is running. This is 25% speed, and as you can see, she's surging a little bit, but she's going. The surging bit tends to be on the uphill length. But I'm going to leave her running for a little while, just on this circular track. The rails look nice and shined. And we'll be back and we'll see how she goes. So I'll let her run, I'll let her do her thing. Here she comes again now on the inner track. Trip round the reversing loop. Managed it quite nicely, actually. I did wonder with the little cleaning shoes underneath, whether any of the slightly uneven bits of track would trip this coach up. Seems to be coping quite nicely. Had a few other comments. People noting that basically it's a bit rubbish. A couple of comments that basically there aren't really any good cleaning coaches. There is a heavy one, Shark, I think somebody said it's called. Charlie over at Chadwick's shown it. It's here he comes around again. A brass like tank wagon, designed to look like a tank wagon, but not massively, if that makes sense. Which You fill up with the cleaning fluid and it goes around. It's got little pads and it sort of drizzles onto the pads and cleans the track as it goes. Quite pricey apparently. So yeah, I'll just give this one a go. I'm not expecting miracles. I'm not expecting. Oh, I haven't run trains for weeks. The track's filthy. This little coach will deal with it. I'm not expecting that. What I'm expecting and what I'm hoping for is basically what she's doing now. Is that she can be run around and basically just used to polish the rails. As people say, don't use abrasives and stuff on them. As I said, this is like running a track rubber around, and yeah, they seem to be coping all right. As I've noted before, the N2 is one of the Walocas I've got that will pick up on dodgy track. She's not a big fan of poor contacts, so working quite nicely, I feel. Yes, I'll carry on with that. So, what we got coming up then? Well, this weekend, I've got to finish off some more. I need to order some more servos. I don't have servos to fit all this stuff. So yeah, that's going in. This is going in. There is a lead over there. This is going to mean a wire is going to sort of come up from behind there and go along that bit of the ceiling, probably above it actually, on the ends, and go over there. Little green light lives under there. There is a network switch. That's where it's going to end up. As you can see, I've had some music on as I've been doing this. Imperial Age, Legacy of Atlantis. Yeah, I can't really do a great deal about actually playing that, obviously, while the video's going. So, yes, weekend jobs coming up is going to be to sort these relays out on here. Hopefully, that will finally stop some of the issues I've got with that board. I'm going to order some of these little time delay relays. If I come down here, I've got two choices. I can mount them somewhere on this panel, probably this side. It'd be talking adding another sheet of ply onto here, bracing it and sticking to that. Or I can basically go onto these panels. Some have got a bit more space than others. There's usually a little bit of space at the end. And put a little relay board on there. And what it'll do, the 5 volts will power it up. It'll throw out the end and it'll then switch the board on with a bit of a delay. They're not expensive. I think I'll get a few of them and we'll give them a go. That's coming up. But the weekend, yeah. The goal is more wiring, more station bits and pieces, and so on and so forth. I've got more signals on order. They haven't turned up yet, but this platform needs one, which will probably be around here somewhere. I do have a printed platform for this. I've got two choices. Stick the signal on top of the platform, at which point it'll be, well, 3. Signal on top of the platform, at which point it's taller. I can try and modify a signal so that it's shorter and stick it on top of the platform. Or I can put a cutout notch section in the platform, and these are just simple 3D printed sections. That won't be hard to do. And I can just work around it. So I've got one for there. I've got 2 more for over here. There will be one here somewhere, which is for leaving the goods yard. See, they're still printing away nicely. And platform 1 will get one, which will probably actually be around there somewhere. Probably on the inside. It'll be around here. And this platform will just cut back a bit further than it does currently, create more space for it. The platform's not there at the minute, but it will be at some point. And that'll give me all the exit signals. This board's not plugged in, which is why those 2 aren't on. The other ones over there are. I think you comment on possibly 3D printing semaphore signals. I did try it with the resin printer. You can get lovely detail out of those things. The problem is when they came out, they're a bit floppy until you cure them. And by the time I'd cured it, it was a twisted mess. So I might put a fine detail nozzle in that. I do have one and give it a go. Yeah, we shall see. I suspect they're going to end up as the model signal engineering kits, but that's for the future. Like I said, I don't think I've got enough servos. I might have enough servos to get the points down there done. Although the far board doesn't have a controller, so I need to build those. There's lots of bits coming up. I'm going to run some more trains, though, because I can. The layout's sort of back together. It's sort of working. Hopefully the two main loops are going to be fairly good and clear. So, yeah. I think I'm going to bring Clarence up to the station area and I'm going to have a little look and see how clean or otherwise the tracks are. Actually, I don't need to. Let's do it down here. I don't even have to go over to there. I've got the red button. Which, as I've said, one of the other jobs I've got to do, which is when this board is out, is rewire that relay to be on the appropriate side circuit. So let's wait for this to come around to where I can get hold of him. There's Clarence and my N2. Got the power over here. That'll do. So, let's have a little look at these pads. Yeah, I mean, they've picked dirt up. He's obviously collected a little bit of tissue from somewhere. Yeah. I'm quite pleased with that. That's how it's not going to do miracles. Start going again now. Yeah. It's not doing miracles. I'm not expecting it to. But that's it for this video. So, as usual, likes, comments, shares, etc. More than welcome. Captain Noisy there going around with Clarence the Cleaning Coach. Look at these signals on here working as well. Lots and lots of little jobs. Always little jobs. Always lots and lots of little jobs. I'm just gluing those together. Right. Anyway, as I say, that's it for this video. Likes, comments, shares, etc. More than welcome. It all helps. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much and goodbye.